are you guys doing? I wanted to welcome everybody to 2021. TED Talks Live is now going to be on Tuesdays, and I'm excited. I don't know about you. I'm going to give a few minutes for everybody to get in here, get comfortable, get your favorite beverage, and let's talk a little bit. The biggest thing about today is I don't want to get into a whole lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Pop and circumstance. I'm not going to have a bunch of, screen sharing and all this other stuff. We're going to have a nice little get together and we're going to go through a few steps on how to be assertive and not insulting in business. The biggest problem that I see in business is that everybody says, "Oh, it's personal. It's personal." Or it's not personal. Maybe that's a better way. It's too personal. It's always personal. I don't care about business. You can say, "Oh, it's business," whatever. It's always personal. I don't think I've ever walked away from a meeting saying, "I feel so much better about that. I feel just awesome. I feel like such a great person right now." I've never said that. I don't care if it was an opportunity to make a lot of money or lose a lot of money. If I felt crappy afterward, I felt crappy in business, and it stunk. So business is always personal. So we're going to look at it from a standpoint of that. Hopefully everybody agrees with me on that. Maybe you don't. That's okay. But in any case, that's what we're going to talk about today. So being assertive, or what does that mean? Well, we're going to delve into that a little bit deeper, but I think that the biggest thing with being assertive is that we have a topic that could be very misleading for a lot of people. Insulting, well, that goes without saying. I've been insulted before, and it's not the first time, won't be the last time, I'm sure. But when you've got a tone of the way that you speak to someone, my wife and I have this conversation constantly about. Let me get over here to these comments here while we're talking about this. My tone is extremely misleading because it could be, I could say something completely off the cuff and it could be not meant in a way that the way I said it, and it could be very, very bad. So the tone is first thing. Set the tone for the whole deal, because I know that there's people out there that as well, everybody who knows me knows that I have a certain sarcastic sense of humor. But sometimes that's not always the way I come across. Sometimes I can be quite a jerk, and I'm a little I'm a little put off by some people because they don't realize that I'm joking. Thank God I've got my wife as a filter, because she's pretty much tells everybody, "Hey, look, he's kidding. He's really not that big of a jerk." Maybe I am, but being assertive is a very important thing. I'll get to your comments in a few minutes, guys. I'm on a roll, so give me a few minutes here. Know your audience. Your audience is so important. Dale Carnegie talked about this in a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I'm not going to, like I said, go into the whole deal on the book and what it looks like. And you can find it. When I was in college and even in high school, we had the Dewey Decimal System. It was a pain in the butt, and we tried to make sure that we read the whole book. Nowadays, a few finger strokes and you're ready to roll. You guys will know, if you find Dale Carnegie, he will definitely direct you in the right path. Because I think that your reading skills, or your even audible skills, try to find something that is going to be good for you, and make sure that you can learn from it. I don't care if it's on YouTube, whatever, as long as you've got a good learning um, platform to go through, and make sure that you've got some simple, I don't know if the right word is, but just a simple format to where you can get through being assertive and not insulting to people. One of the major books, and I tell everybody this before we get started with anything, is Art of War. Art of War is such a huge book when it comes to business for me. And I can't really tell you, I'm not going to give you all the ins and outs of the book, but it'll basically it, if you go through and you read it and you don't read about a concubine and a beheading, then you need to reread the book. And there's a definite thing with in business that when you tell people exactly what you want, don't sugarcoat it. Tell them what you want. There's no question about how else to do it. Just make sure that you get your point across. One of the biggest concerns I've got in business is the entitlement factor. And entitlement right now, I think everybody has dealt with that in one shape or another just this last year with everything. Um, I don't know if there's really much to be said about it, but entitlement can be a real pain in the ass. Excuse my French. So entitlement can have a couple different connotations. You could have uh, somebody who's just so arrogant and so full of themselves. I know this because I used to be like this. I used to be. I'm stressing that they need to get knocked down a few notches, and that's something that I don't know many people are willing to be humble enough to do that. I know that there's a lot of people that have just a lot of entitlement right now. And I'm not going to get into the political aspects of it because we don't talk politics or religion on TED Talks. One of the ground rules. But I want to make sure that we're all up and up. Entitlement stinks, and I don't think that we need to be even looking into it any further. So get rid of entitlement. Get rid of your tone, or construct your tone, I should say. And one thing about entitlement, it's so close. There's such a thin line with ignorance that you could be you could be the most well-educated person on the planet, but if you feel like you're just not you're somebody's beneath you, you got to get rid of that. You got to get rid of that whole concept of who you are because it's wrong. You know, my dad was a designer at Ford. He did all these great things, and he worked on the Mustang cars. He worked on all these just amazing vehicles. And, you know, he would pull me aside as I was growing up and he would say to me, he says, if you think that you're better than anybody that's actually building these cars on the line, he says, I want to tell you something, you're wrong. You have a opportunity to know that these people work so hard to put these vehicles together and try to build the things that we come up with in our ideas. So make sure that you know that you're not you're not above anybody. You know, you're at the same level. And that's something that's always stayed with me. I don't think that there's many people that really have that mentality in today's world. But in any case, I think that everybody should get to the point where they're, you know, everybody's at the same level. It doesn't matter if you're making $1 million, $2 million, $3 million a year. Doesn't matter, or if you're making 20,000 a year. But in any case, I digress. I just want to make sure that you guys get a couple of the ground rules as far as what assertive and insulting is. Uh, yeah. So, welcome. Thank you for coming over here and seeing that we've got. I can't believe how many people are here. It's crazy. Thank you guys for stopping in. I know that there's so much to talk about today, and I know that with the assertive lifestyle that all of us live, it can be a real problem. I think that uh, we all deal with. We've all worked retail. We've all seen you know, the the exhaustion as far as just people, you know, yelling at other people or just being disrespectful. And I've had it with that. I don't think that there's really anything that we can get away from except setting the mood and the tone so that people aren't abrasive. Now, insulting, you know, when I was a kid growing up, a lot of people, they, you know, your mama this, your mama that. That was that was kind of the big thing when we were kids, you know, and it's still that way. It's just a different term, you know. I don't think that there's really anybody that's disrespectful intentionally. If they are, well, I don't have any time for them anyway. I curate them right out of my Facebook and everything else, social media wise. But there's a lot of people that you know can be ignorant and can be insulting. But it's up to you to choose whether you're there or not. if you don't want to be part of that, then don't. It doesn't mean you can't get your point across. And that's one thing that I strive for. Get your point across, tell people exactly what you want. Because if you don't do that, it's all for naught. Life's too short. You have to get to the point directly. And maybe that's where I fall short with my tone. But I see it from a standpoint of trying to listen, trying to be constructive, trying to intently listen. And I think we've missed that in a lot of our culture right now. I think that there's so many people that are not listening. They're not hearing. They're not hearing other people, and they're trying to respond to what they're trying to what they're going to say before even hearing what the people have their information. So, and that's exactly you know that's the problem that I think we're really having in today's world. People just don't listen. Debate is a thing where debating has kind of gone to the wayside, and it's more so in a debate. It's people that are trying to win one over or trying to. I don't even know if the right word is, but they're trying to dominate. They're trying to control the whole situation, and that's not what debate's about. I mean, you can prove your point without being a complete jerk, right? And I don't think that we have to have it to the point where we lose. Maybe I'm wrong. But let's go through some of these comments. Man, this is like Brian's show. Holy cow. Let me see what we got here. Give me a second, guys. Let me get situated here. All right, let's go start from the beginning. Willow, good morning. Joe Dog, what's up, man? How are you? Okay, let's just go down the list and I'll kind of do the Brian thing here. Good morning, Heather. How you doing? Brian, the biggest problem in business is often me. Wow. That's pretty profound. You guys like this bubble system thing? I don't know. It's okay. I think it's all right. We'll try it for right now and see. But I think we've got so many different avenues that we can learn from in business and in life for that matter. But let's see. Just going through. Michaela, how you doing? Hey, punk. That's what Grant decided to state. Hey, punk. Was that assertive or insulting? Well, it depends on the tone. Again, I don't know which way you're looking at it. I know that there's a lot of people. When I was growing up as a kid, they would use the N word a lot. I grew up in Northwest Detroit, and it was a sign of affection for a lot of people that I grew up with. It wasn't a derogatory term, um, and I saw it from a standpoint of being derogatory later in life because I've seen how people react to it because it's not it's very it has a negative connotation when it's not your group, you're not your crew, and that's it's all relative, I guess, right? There's all people that it's all relative. That's all I can say about it. I know Willow. I know that you have issues with. We all have issues. You have wish. I know that you deal with a lot with just the public and what you do. I mean, being in that type of format, coffee is hard anyway. Coffee is a very unique uh, beast unto itself because you have one shot to get it right, and that's one thing that I just never. It's a cup of coffee, people. Get over it. Don't get so stressed out about it. But I know that there's so many that have the audacity to say, how dare you made my coffee incorrectly? Oh, I wanted more sugar. I wanted and blah blah blah. It, you know, whatever, whatever. By the way, in my coffee cup today is Grandview. I just wanted to make sure you guys knew that. And there's also I'm working on a whole commercial, so I don't have to repeat it every time I'm going through this with Indian River Roasting Company. I've got a full thing that I'm doing right now it's going to be really good. So I'm looking forward to that. That way I don't have to tell you all about the great promo codes and everything else that we've got in the future, but it's going to be a lot of fun in that regard. Brian says, my talent to say rotten things. Let's see what we got here. To say rotten things, I really mean and sound like I'm joking. Okay. Well, I mean, that's, I've said that to Chris a few times. I've said things that I completely, it was taken out of context. And I've regretted it because it hurt her in one way or the other. And it's not a, it's not something that I'm proud of. And I did not mean to be that way towards her because it's a very, once you, once you say something like that, there's no coming back from it. You get to the point where you're like, oh shit, how am I supposed to get through this now? How am I supposed to get in good graces again? Let's see. Just reading Heather's comment here. Communication is huge, and then recap everything in writing, so it's laid out in the black. Okay, yeah, that's the truth. Let's see. Good morning, Carl. How you doing, sir? Russell. Good morning, Carly. Donna, how are you doing? We all are equal, aren't we, Russell? Whether you make sandwiches, collect garbage, drive a truck, every job needs a person, and we need people to fill these positions. Doesn't mean they're any less or better than you. That's correct. And I agree with that. I think that there's, we've got a stigma in this country that I think, I don't know if there's any real correct way to put it, but besides entitlement, I don't think that there's really any other format to it. I've, there's a certain amount of arrogance to all of it, but I think that the entitlement factor is, I'm hoping it's going to be changing. And I think that there's people that are collectively keeping the man down and still, and it's always been like that. We've had a caste system forever, and that's unfortunate, but it's the truth. It can change, and I think it should change. Let's see. My Willow says my jokes are also dry and dark. Sometimes people take me way too seriously. Well, I mean, I that's great. I feel like I'm part of that group. I feel like I've joined that club a long time ago. Is Christian here? I didn't see him. Ah, there he is. Hello, Christian. Of course, there he is. In any case, so one of the things that I really wanted to talk about too was the fact that we've got a group of a collective here of people that are like-minded, and I want to tell you first and foremost that I appreciate every single one of you for being part of this experiment in technology and creativity and just the spoken word. I appreciate you guys so much, and it means a lot to me that I've even had the opportunity to do this kind of thing. There's a lot of people that, oh God, why would you do that? Why would you, what would you accomplish by being online? And well, you know what? You accomplish a lot of things. There's some really great things that come out of this. A lot of creativity with other people, ideas that pop up that are not just you know lame ideas. They're actually very creative. And I think that there's people that we always learn everything that we're doing with this whole Ted's tribe or this collective with Rising Tide. We're all learning. So, and I really appreciate you guys so much. Except for you, Christian. I really appreciate you, bro. Like-minded pervert. Nice. Nice. Yep, my kind of peeps. The public school system taught my oldest kid that we, as his parents, are supposed to take care of him even after he is an adult. So some of the entitlement is coming from teaching institutions. That's interesting, Michaela. I think that there's a lot of people that when you look at, don't take this the wrong way because I'm overeducated. I'm very, very overeducated to the point where it's the academic side of me overpowers the other side of me. I think that when you look at our education system, it's designed so that people are employees. It's designed so that back in the 40s and the 50s, you would go to school, you would go to college to become something. You would go to college to be a doctor or a lawyer, have your own business, create something that you were independent from being an employee. Now it's gotten to the point where we're all employees. It's built in a system that is broken, and for the lack of a better word, you get your college degree to get a good job. Woohoo! Yeah, that's broken now. That's not even it's not even it's broken. And that's not the way that we need to be as a country. I think that we should be entrepreneurial. That's the whole idea of doing this thing. Being an entrepreneur is we're all doing it right now. We all got plan B right now. We're all in it. And if COVID's not taught us anything, it's that. I mean, we've got to look at it from a standpoint now to where entitlement, having an employee mentality is not, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. We need to look at it from an entrepreneurship leg and see if we can't get that leg up, and try to build it to where we've got something that's going to work. Because right now the system's broken. So, in any case, okay. So how do we be assertive? The first thing is when we go into a place of business. Say that somebody ended up. Let's see. Let's say that this watch, I wasn't happy with the watch I purchased. Okay, so I go in and I'm going to get to the point. I want a full refund, or I want a replacement. I know the two things that I want done. Okay, so I go in. I'm saying, okay, I've got my receipt. This watch is a piece of junk. This one isn't, but this watch is a piece of junk, and I need to. I want it either replaced, or I want to have it paid. I want you to give me my money back. So the guy behind the counter is like, well, I don't think we're going to do that. We're going to end up making, it's past your 90 days, whatever. And so now I'm getting upset because he didn't listen to what I was saying. So I was assertive. I had got my point across. Now it's going to get to the insulting stage if he doesn't take care of what I want him to take care of. Either give me my money back, get me a new watch, or whatever. He said, nope, sorry, it's out of warranty. We can't do anything about it. We're not going to refund your money. So how do you work that out? How does that assertive side of you not become insulting? I look at it from a standpoint of, okay, I'm not getting what I want, so I'm going to take my toys and I'm going to leave, or I'm going to call corporate. That's the other thing. You go one step up again. So you got all these layers of, but the guy behind the counter is the front line. He's the one that's, you're basically you're getting angry with him, and that direction can be real dangerous because there's a lot of people that feel like they really aren't responsible. I mean, it's like if Willow was at the coffee shop and the person had a problem with Starbucks or whatever, wherever she works, you wouldn't have, she's not the corporate structure. She might be the face to the corporation, but she's not the corporate structure, right? So when you're looking at it from that standpoint, take a notch, just take a step back and reevaluate what you're doing, because some people get really irate to the point of it's ridiculous. Let me get into some of these comments because I know that assertive and insulting can be, like I said, a real thin line. I've had people throw milkshakes at me and you name it when I was younger. I mean, and just it went on and on and on. I've had a guy, I had a builder threaten to break my hands, which that was kind of fun. And not understanding what I was saying at the time, it was actually I was working as a designer, and I just had finished working on this kitchen for this couple, and I dealt with the woman. Basically she was going through and picking out everything and picking all the countertops and cabinetry and everything else. We did all that, got it in place, everything was installed, and the guy said, "Well," he said, "I got a problem." He said, "These cabinets are crap, and you're a piece of garbage because you didn't design it properly, and and on and on." And he said, and he got to the point where he says, he says, "If you don't give me my money back, I'm going to break both your hands with my hammer, blah, blah." He was really getting violent. And I said, well, he said, and you're a piece of, bleep. And I didn't really mean it this way, but I said, your wife doesn't think so. Probably not the best thing to say. So I didn't realize what I was saying. I meant what I meant was your wife doesn't think the design is bad. And so it's really how you word things too. So being assertive and insulting, it can be kind of it's a really a twofer because you have to be careful if you're behind the counter and you have to be careful when you're in front of the counter. So it's, you're back to this where, yeah. Anyway, so make sure that you're looking at it from a standpoint of try not to insult your clients as well, to the point where they're a little upset with you. So, okay. So let's see what we got here. Let me go back a little bit here on these comments. I saw one with Heather. Heather had a really, let's see. Well, okay. She said, I agree, Michaela, and they aren't teaching the kids to deal properly with issues. I teach my son to stand up for himself respectfully, but stand his ground when and how. Then he goes to school and he is told to tell and ask for help. And let's see, bring this up here. And I agree with that. I mean, that there's things with, what are the kids I think it's even harder for them because they're trying to deal with everything that's going on. And then they get two sides to it. Do they fight back or not? When I was a kid, my dad was like, listen, you punch them in the nose. If they get too outrageous or whatever, they'll back down. If they're a bully, they'll back down. I was told that, and I got home and my mom just about killed me. She did not think that that was such a good idea at all. And we're at a point in our lives right now that we've got to be really careful too, because there's a lot of kids are, unfortunately, one of the things about COVID is the shootings. We haven't had the school shootings. And I know that's a terrible thing to say, but I mean, it's very truthful. We're in a point where a lot of the kids, they're not in school. They're not, it goes on and on with that. But in today's world, bullying is not something that is just lightly taken. I mean, these kids some are really scared. I know, growing up in Detroit, I was always somewhat scared, just dealing with all the different things that could happen uh, in a school setting anywhere. It didn't matter if it was in Detroit or not. Um, but nowadays, I can't even imagine what kids are going through, and it's become such a norm before COVID. So I don't know. I'm kind of at a standstill on that. I'm thankful that my kids are older now and that they're in college, and that we've dealt with that part of their lives. But it's still, it's still scary. It's still scary. But in any case, let me see what else we got here. Grant says, I hear a lot about the younger generation being entitled, but I've seen a lot of the opposite. Younger people just accepting whatever you give them without being assertive. Okay, I can see that too. I see that there's a lot of people that are, I shouldn't say this because I raised two critical thinkers. I raised two kids that are, um, I have to say I'm really proud of them because they've taken the bull by the horns and done things. My daughter's in grad school. She's doing everything that she wants to do for occupational therapy. She's really doing it. My son Aaron is a contractor, and he got to it, man. He's not playing games. He's an entrepreneurial spirit, very into it. He understands building industry a little bit, probably better than most, just from my background in architecture and that. But from his standpoint and from Ashley's standpoint, seeing them and how they manage life, uh, I can't. I'm over the moon by it. They're not. But that's like you said. It's not the norm. There's a lot of people that are to the point where they just don't care. They're making minimum wage. They're not. They're just not producing, they're not making income, so they just feel like it's for naught. I mean, I can understand that. I can totally get that. And what do you do? I mean, look at the situation that we're in right now with everybody. There's no th- some of these kids don't even have work. They're essential, and then this essential it's hard too because they're in the front lines. They're not being able to do $7 an hour. They can't, or $8 an hour. They can't make it. I just don't, I don't really see the draw to it all for them, the motivation for them to even bother, in some cases. And it's frustrating. It is frustrating. But I mean, I see other kids that are, like I said, my kids are, I'm very fortunate because they're doing things that they want to do. They're building a following of, clientele. But it doesn't happen like that for everybody. And I totally understand that. Okay, Christian, he's interesting. Okay. So Christian, I've always seen it this way. Correct me if I'm wrong. Schools educate children, parents teach them. That's fair. That's fair. I think that you've got it always starts at home. Period. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's neglect or not. It always starts at home. I think that you can learn so much from the village mentality. I think it does take a village to raise kids. I did not raise my kids by myself by any means. They were completely. There was a lot of people involved with my, with raising my kids. So I don't really, and I don't take offense by saying that I raised two. I shouldn't have said it like that. But there's so many things that you guys can discuss when it comes to kids. I wanted them to be critical thinkers. I didn't want them to be wallflowers. I was always concerned by that. I see friends that have children that are not they're not productive. They're productive in work, but they're not productive in relationships, and it's a little concerning because how are they going to get through life? They might have all the money in the world, but they're functionally, they're just not motivated to do anything besides work. And that's okay, I guess. They don't want to have kids or whatever. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Um, but you look at it from a standpoint of what are they doing with their lives? How are they being? Um, and then you see some of them that are completely off the rails, uh, completely off the rails. And I'm looking at it from a standpoint of God, how are they even going to get through not going to jail or out of the basement for that matter? How are they just going to get out of their families, out of their parents' uh, lives? I don't know. So I'm not going to get into all that, but that's you get what I'm saying. There's so many different factors to children. But as far as being assertive with your kids, maybe that's another thing. Tough love was something that they spoke of when I was a kid. Tough love, you got to be, you almost have to be insulting to your kids at some regards. I know some of the years my kids are pretty insulting to me too. Teenage years, I wasn't any different with my parents. But I mean, that's it is what it is, I guess. Willow Schuyler, customer service. Hold on a second. Let me go back to this. Customer service is in some companies have gotten lazy and have an issue with dealing with people's stupidity. And when I have to deal with it from my coworkers, yeah, I get frustrated and bitchy, or flustered and bitchy. And that's okay though. I mean, sometimes coworkers can be the antichrist. I know in corporate America, what I had to deal with was we would have somebody structure something. Say that I was working on a design, building a house or whatever. I was designing a home. We'd have a guy come in, and he would screw up something, foundation work, something roof line. Something happened where he screwed up big time. And when he didn't want people looking at what he did, he would point out maybe a misnomer or something of what happened, of what I did or what he thought I did. So it brought attention to me. And it nothing was wrong with what I was doing, but it is a real it's a real bait and switch. I mean, the direction of how people misdirection, maybe that's a better word. And that gets real. That's a corporate structure. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that do that in corporate America. I've seen a lot of people get in trouble and get fired, and it's for not because there's a lot of people that are they're they're the ones that are actually doing the wrong, but just because they directed the boss's attention to something that wasn't probably even legit, you know. So yeah, I get what you're saying on that, and I've had the mentality of from some of these people. I worked with some bosses that were just complete. I would have underlings that were just ridiculous. They were just completely. It was sickening to watch the brown nosing that was going on and the nepotism. I learned a lot being up north with nepotism. There's it's fascinating to me that in today's world it still happens. But you see he's in the White House and you see what's happening with his family and his boys and all that. And that's fine, whatever. I won't get into all that, but there's a lot going on there too, to where that's nepotism to its eighth degree. Grant Lankard says, this sounds like my stepson. He knows everything there is to know about computers, but can't carry on a conversation. His technical skills are like a 9, and his communication skills are like a 2. I get that. I know that there's people out there that when you look at the functionality of who they are, I really have no clue how they even drive a vehicle to get to work. I'm completely blindsided. I'm in awe because I really can't imagine. I can't imagine them functioning in life. They have no skills outside of the like you said, the computer or doing their job, and that's fine. You got to have common sense, though. There's got to be something of a balance there. Without common sense, it doesn't matter how many degrees you have, what your application uh, is, what you're trying to accomplish in life. You've got to have some balance. There's no way that there's people that are so far off the mark, and they can do all these great things and they have all this money, but they're completely inept. They have no idea, how to make a how to make a grilled cheese sandwich or even have a conversation to go out on a date or anything. So anyway, yeah. So I don't know if there's an assertive checklist. I don't know if there's one. I think that there probably is somewhere. But the big one for me was the tone of it all. Having to deal with so many people that have they think they can treat you the way that they do, which that really irks me to no end. When they think that they've got the right to actually say the things that they've said to you, uh, yeah, and that's when people get triggered. That's when people get insulted, and that could get very desperate. Willow's got a question here. Okay, let me read this. Often it's the lazy and stupid that get promoted, and the hardworking, dedicated people get ignored. How do you deal with this? Well, there's a couple different ways to deal with it. I've been passed up for promotions, and I've seen these suckers do this, and I know exactly what you're talking about. If your boss isn't aware of what is going on, then maybe they should be maybe you should either get another job somewhere else if you can, or they can just be notified. They've got a boss too, I'm sure. I don't see how there's any Ryan, it's irritating to me because I know exactly what you're saying. I've had people that were completely uh, misguided and promoted, and it was all because of them being a kiss butt. Basically, is what it is. They were kissing ass to get somewhere. I don't know if there's any way that there's an HR or anybody else that can handle that, but I think that there's got to be some avenue, some corporate. And it's hard when it's a small company, because when it's a small company, you're SOL on a lot of stuff because you can't, they're never going to see it, right? And you get to the point where they are hardworking in that, and they get ignored, and it builds up animosity. There's a lot of problems in internal workings with businesses because of it. And I've left companies. They say that when you what is there's a term for it, but you end up leaving. Good employees leave because they're not appreciated, and that's I think that that's very true. It doesn't always happen, because I think that there's a lot of people that get fed up, and the jobs just aren't there anymore. You know, we get to the point now where we have a lot of people that are the jobs aren't going to be coming back. I mean, so now they feel stuck, and they're in a situation to where they're they're freaking out because they don't know what they're going to do. They feel like they've capped. They've been, and it's unfortunate when you feel like that. When you feel like you're kind of lost a bit. That's a very hard thing. I've dealt with that with other jobs, and getting to the point where I've worked my way up through corporate structure and everything else, and then it's all for naught, right? But yeah, there's so many aspects to that. Catalyst Comics Studio. Let's see what they say. It scares you when you go to work elsewhere as well. Your last treatment was stuck in. Yeah, it will. A lot of people, when it's stuck in your mind like that, there's really no recovery, because you're completely your angst. You got this, you call it for burden, for the lack of a better word. But I've had people that I felt after I got the job, and I worked my way, I still felt like I was going to lose my job all the time. It always felt that way. It always felt like I was who's going to be proving me wrong next. And I hated that feeling. One of the things that I really distrust. So you're going from corporation to corporation to corporation, right? And you've got to work because you have to have medical insurance. You've got to work because you got to make sure that the dentals, all these things are happening. It's not like we're some type of civilized nation that has healthcare, right? Socialized healthcare. So you've got to work. You've got to go to these jobs. You have to build and you've got to stay with those jobs. It's a very daunting thing. I've never quite understood it. Seeing other countries and how they deal with that has always been interesting to me, because it always seemed like it always seemed to me that it was a cart before the horse. We always had to work. We always had to work at these jobs. We stayed at these jobs because the bennies are good. Never understood that. I never understood that. Carl says, I've had that too, Willow, but I refuse to let it affect the quality of my own work. I work around them. I'm sure you do. There's a lot of people that are hurting right now, just trying to even keep a roof over their head, right? So how do you guys manage? Let me ask you that. How do you guys manage working in a environment that is so entitled that it makes you feel beneath all the time? How does that work? I mean, I have a luxury of doing what I do. And a lot of that is, due to Christine. I mean, I'll tell you straight up. But what do you guys feel as far as the entitlement of your bosses? How does that structure for you guys? And since we're talking about it, anybody want to answer that or no? No? Okay. I know that I've had bosses that were I've had really, really good bosses. I've had bosses that have stepped up and done some amazing things for me and helped me out when I needed it. And I've had some that are just hmm, not even it, it it hurt me that they were taking air from me. They weren't very nice people. Um, so I don't know if there's any. I hope that I'm a good boss. I always try to be. I don't think that there's too many people that could say that I was a bad boss, but I think that there's a few that probably could say, yeah, he could have been better. But I always tried to have it to the point where people were fairly treated, were paid well. That's one thing that I strive for because it was something they would always get paid first. That was something too that was hard. There was times that other other jobs didn't come through, and it was on and on. Boo-hoo me. But there's a lot of things that you go without to make sure other people are covered. Carl says, I've had some bosses who say things like, well, I'm the manager. Yeah, okay. We'll do it anyway. I'll show you that. We'll do it anyway and see how that works. Okay. We'll do it your way and see how that works. Nice. I've had bosses that have used my ideas and that just chaps my butt. They've used it as, well, yeah, it's a proprietary thing. This is, we're going to use this idea. We came up with it. No, it was my idea, but you go ahead and use it. Let's see what Michaela says here. Hold on a second. I work a job, hard physical labor. It's really hard to find people who truly want to work. They gripe about having, yeah, I get that. I know that there's people that have had physical labor is, and I'm learning this now. And, when I was in my 20s, I really didn't know how to design a house until, uh, or yeah, I really didn't know how to do any type of construction really until I was actually doing construction and doing the load bearings and everything else and learning architecture. So when I was on a property that wasn't backfilled and the mud was just filling my boots, and that's when I really started learning how to really design. And I think you need that. But I'll tell you what, now when I'm going to be 50 in April, I'm not doing that kind of work again. Hell no. I'm not doing any type of work like that if I can help it. Joe Dog says, I'm retired. So as of now, I am my own boss. But my last job, it was toxic. I had to balance ego versus personal beliefs. The last straw was when I was told we only hired you from from the neck down. Ooh, ouch. Well, that's kind of BS. Um, yeah, that's kind of hurtful. I don't think that there's really anything. Yeah, the guy's a piece of crap. Whatever. What? Wow. Okay. Well, whatever. I mean, teach their own. I guess. I don't really know what to say about that. I've had people. I've had a lot of people. Uh, I've had people ask me about my origins, my political beliefs, my religious beliefs. I've had people ask me about my educational background, my ethnicity. That one really got me fired up. Let me tell you, I've never been, uh, ever been interviewed like that in my life, and I, I didn't really know what to say. I was pretty upset, and my attorney was too, actually. But the company didn't have shit for money. Excuse my French. So, but they, whatever. I since didn't work for them, but interesting nonetheless. Carl says, I've learned. Let me post this up here. Carl says this is turning into a little bit of Brian's show, taken from the great Brian. I've learned to be assertive and give my point. Then, if they don't take my advice, well, that's their life. I don't take it personally. I knew that someday I'd be elsewhere and would be appreciated. Well, that's very true. Um, I, you know, what can you say about it all? Appreciation's the key, right? You get to the point where assertiveness and all of the rest of it, money, you name it, it's all being appreciated. I, I, I mean, I know Amy Hale said it last week. I don't think Amy's on the show right now, but she says, you know, my daughter is so much happier at the job that she's in now than she was at her last job because of the stress that she had. So, I mean, there's, it's a give and take. There's a lot to be said for that. A lot to be said for that. Carl says, Willow, just work for your regular customers, make them love you. Then if you go elsewhere, they will follow you. And that's very true. I've had clients leave to come with me when I left architectural firms and that. No joke. I've had people, say, Sonara, yeah, we're going where Ted. Now, the problem with that is the big problem with that is when you have a non-compete clause. So when you've got people that are making you sign clauses before you are hired, be aware of that because that could be very detrimental. I've had people actually say to me, well, you can't take this client because such and such, they can't buy anything from you for like 18 months after you've worked here. And I'm like, well, you go suck it because they're coming with me. I'll see you in court. There's no way, it's not going to happen. Some of these clients were so nice that I couldn't have them buy something from the companies I worked with because they were so they were sickening. The practices, just the way that they did business, I just couldn't stand it. Anyway, enough about me. Let's see. Carl says I had people at Radio Shack who would walk out of the store if it was my day off. Awesome. That's awesome. I've had people I've had people not buy certain things from certain companies because of that same thing. Um, I've had other people that have actually looked at me from a standpoint of, why are you here? Why are you doing this? What is the benefit? Why don't you do something else? And I don't know if that's a compliment or a take back. I really didn't know what to say because it's like, wow, man, that's kind of depressing. It made me feel almost worse. Then I've had other clients say, hey, why don't you come work for us? And that was another thing that I was a little worried about because, headhunters, when you're working with somebody at that level, and then you got people coming in and asking, sometimes that's not good either. Because I don't know if I want to work for somebody like that either, that's scalping, that's trying to get you to. Any thoughts on that, guys? Anything? I know it takes a minute for the comments to come through, but I know that there's always something to be said for good customer service. There's always something to be said for appreciating your clientele, making them feel that they are worthy. That's a big thing. I've had a lot of really, really good clients. I've had a lot of bad clients, but I've had some that are just so refreshing that it's such a great thing. That's a compliment, Ted. How's that? How's that, Carl? Because I know that it's hard because you don't know. You don't know if you're being um, the best that you can be because you don't have you really aren't you're not being, I don't know. yeah, you're being truthful, but you're not being authentic, I guess, maybe. And the other thing is too, you've got people that are trying to they're trying to take you from a place of business. So how does that make you look? What if somebody else comes to their job after you're working for them and the same thing happens? So I don't know. There's a lot there. I think that there's things to be said for both sides of it. I always felt weird about it. I always felt weird about it. Um, let's see, Michaela. Let's see. I'll throw this up real quick. I've had that too in my work. We subcontract for other places. I've had an owner of one of them tell the other owner, yeah, steal me away. Yeah, and I mean, that's a good thing, I guess. I don't know. I'm to the point where I get to certain companies, and I like to get comfortable. I like to get it to the point where I've got a segue. I can build. I feel comfortable for a while, but I always got to the point where it was like, yeah, this isn't for me. I don't like this. This isn't feeling right. But it was, it was nice though to have people come in and at least admire you for the the efforts that you're making. Grant says, I told a guy once, you're too good for this job. I mean, I meant it as a compliment, but I think he interpreted it as an insult. Well, and that's the other thing. Insults. Interpretation is everything, right? Interpretation is the basis of all of it. We're all It's all the perspective. If we look at it from a standpoint of perspective, then we're all kind of up in the air because we don't really have it's all how you look at it, right? It's all relative. Christian, I'm scared to read this, but I'm going to anyway. I'm going to post it up here. My favorite compliment was at cons where people would tell me they would schedule their day around panels I was on, that someone would make me their priority at something they paid for. Felt good. And you are absolutely right. Very good, Christian. I know that there's so many different avenues when it comes to being assertive and not insulting. I don't know if there's really a common ground. I don't know if there's a streamlined book that you can read or download that would give you the ins and outs of you know what it's all about. I see it from a standpoint of we have to look at it as a learning process. We have to look at it as a people pleasing process in some respects, because I think that there's a lot of people that get hurt over just a tone of somebody saying something or the way somebody misinterpreted something. And you guys are, it's great because you guys are interacting with me, but I understand where you're going with this, because we all are affected by it. We all have this nature about us that wants it to be easier, wants it to be nicer. And we've all been hurt when it comes to work sometimes, emotionally or whatever. So I mean, ways of insulting is just, like I said, it's a double-edged sword. We can insult people, they can insult us, but where does it go? What is the end? It's interpretation, right? It's listening. It's trying to get it to the point where people aren't hurt, you know. And that's I mean, people pleasing too, Christian. Yeah, I mean, I think I am too, to a lot of regards. I think that there's people that are you get to the point where you're just not happy until they're happy. And I had a friend that posted something a couple days ago about customers always right. I disagree with that. I was taught that at a young age, the customer was always right. No, I just completely disagree with that. I think that I try to make people happy. I try to be a go-getter in that, but it's all, again, you're back to it's all subjective, because there's people that are just not going to be happy. They're just not going to be fulfilled with, the best experience that they've ever had when it comes to reading a book or artwork or anything else. I'm fortunate enough because I've been in a profession that people enjoy and people see. It's instant. It's like, boom. They love it or they hate it. It's subjective because it's art, but it's a real it's a real blessing in a lot of regards because I get to do what I do and have the inspiration, the effect of what happens. It's great, but not everybody has that, you know, and that can be hard. Carl says let me post this real quick, Carl. I was in a meeting and had to use the washroom. Someone said, "Now can we talk about you?" I told them, "Don't forget that I'm bossy and I think I know everything. I know your faults. Have fun." Cool. I can totally see you doing that. I can totally see you doing that. Grant says the problem with the customer's always right is that people will complain just because they think they're going to get something for free. Yeah. And I had that, I worked for Home Depot Corporation for about 10 years. And one of the things that they did is they actually let us work at the store level. I did a lot of corporate trainings and I had an office in Chicago and Atlanta and all that stuff, but they also let us, they let us work in the stores a lot too. And we would get to the point where we, I remember one time, new store opening. We had a brand new store opening because I was part of that whole team thing. New stores, build all these new Home Depots, right? And a woman brought in a set of tires that they didn't even buy from Home Depot. And I'll be damned if they didn't take them back. I just blew my mind. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. But yeah, so that I totally understand that, and very frustrating. What a what a crappy way to do business, and and it actually makes you, you're telling her no, we didn't even sell these to you. It demeans you. You're complete. You look like a complete idiot. So I don't know. I'm with you on that, though. I get what you're saying. Willow says, I'm a people pleaser too, but too many people take advantage of people like us. I am trying to be a bit more smarter with my time and energy with you. Yeah, I agree with you, Will. And there's something to that effect too. When it takes a little chunk out of you. It does. I mean, it chips away at you because you're always second guessing yourself, right? Then what? Then you want to make sure that you're not in trouble with the powers that be there. It's on and on. And it's a very, you can't pivot. You don't know which leg to stand on because you don't know what manager is going to do to you or, against you or whatever. Christians, I don't need a bathroom, Carl. Love you, man. Okay. Just going to leave that alone. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, there's just so much that can be done with being assertive and not insulting. I don't really know what else to say about it. I know that there's books out there like Art of War, Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I know that the 30 years of experience I've had, just an architecture of what I've had to deal with people, with clientele, with every form of scum and villainy. And I know that there's a lot of people that are, it's very uh, good to know that other people they've gone through it and they understand that it's something that we all manage. We all do it. We all get through it. Um, let's see, Carl. I'm going to post this. LOL, Carl, sorry, LOL, Christian. I'm at peace with myself. Like when Ted says, Carl, don't be a dick. Hey, I'm glad that I can be one nowadays. Yeah. And that's true. I've had people that were, complete, I don't know what the right word is, way off the mark, way off the reservation, completely unfounded the way that they acted. And I knew that if I didn't handle it the way I did, it would have been trouble. So, you've got to, like I said, suck it up, buttercup sometimes. And it's hard. It's really a hard thing to do. Um, but it is what it is. I don't think that there's really any way that entitlement can't get out of what we do. Entitlement is such a ingrained thing in our lives, but ignorance is something we can control. I think ignorance is something that if we just flip the switch a bit and not deal with ignorance, if we can take that notch and just bring it down one, or maybe step it up, don't you guys don't have to be complete jerks. Educate yourselves, right? I mean, have something to where you're making yourself a little bit better. One of the things that I really appreciated in high school was I had a teacher, a professor that would let us look up one word a day, and it could be any word we wanted to. I mean, this is when we all had dictionaries, right? Showing my age, but that one word we would have to use in a sentence, right, or a paragraph that day. And for I think for 3 months that we were in that class, we learned like 90. I forget how it was, like 65 words or something that offered vocabulary. I think it was awesome because there were so many good ideas that came out of that. If we did that, what a better place it would be. I mean, there'd be a little less ignorance, maybe a little bit more understanding, maybe I'm not saying that everything has to deal with words, but experiences like this, learning that other people have had situations that are very similar and they're very, they can understand. That's a big part of ignorance. If we could just get to the point where we're enjoying each other's company, but also understand that we all go through it. We're not that different. Jeff Hayes says emotional maturity, self awareness, and knowing of our own shortcomings can go a long way in improving how we deal with bosses or customers. Absolutely, Jeff. There's really no uh, what's a, experience or maybe no perspective uh, that without I think maturity it does help. I've had a lot of things with from the time when I was in my 20s till now, just maturity of how I dealt with things. Um, I couldn't have handled back in my 20s. There's no way. There's no way. So I completely agree with that. Completely agree with that. I don't think that there's anything more important, I think, than maturity. Experience, obviously, but maturity that's its own gift. That's its own gift. Let me get this one comment off of here, wherever it was. But yeah, I think that there's always room for improvement, and I think that there's always room for um, there's always room for non ignorance. You need to have it to the point where people are. Um, I don't even think that's a word, but I think that you got to have smarts. You got to have it to the point where you're dealing with. You got to have your cards stacked a little bit. Try to learn from a standpoint of just not insulting the other person, not getting to the point where they're so frustrated with what you're saying that you're making them look like a complete idiot, and you're not trying to not solve their problem, but trying to get to the point where you're upsetting them. I know that there's a lot of people that I wish I hadn't upset, and I wish that I've actually taken it back the way I said something, because I think that there's a point in time where we all should reflect on that. And that, that's it happens to all of us. We get to the point where we're very um now arrogant. I mean, we get very to the I don't know if arrogance the right word, but we get to the point where people are very it's mistaken what was said. And I don't really know if there's any way that we've all done it. We've all put our foot in our mouths, right? A couple times. I do it daily, I think. Maybe even on this podcast, but I have a lot of people that are um, I'm very thankful that are in my life and that are not they're not too angry with me for some of the things that I've said over the years. They're sticking around, so that's good. Michaela says, "Agreed, Jeff. I look back on the job I had a while back, where the boss threatened me with a taser. I should have left that. Yeah, you should have. Absolutely. Yeah, I don't. That was one thing. I don't think I was ever threatened, besides the guy with the hammer breaking my hands. That guy, we dealt with him, but uh, there's other people that, man, I've witnessed some people that have been completely abused, just mentally at work. And if I would have been an attorney, I would have been all over those, all over them. But it's unfortunate. But let me see what Brian says here. Brian's got a interesting comment. Michaela, I hear that. When I worked in public broadcasting, I became the butt of a joke that dealt with my low station at the place. They took it beyond the point where I thought I was. No, I get it. And I've had people to do that. I've had people. Let's see. Brian also says I was gathering my belongings after writing out my resignation when my supervisor realized she'd gone too far and apologized. Good. I'm glad she did. I'm looking at it now. I mean, I've had a few things that have been said to me about my heritage and about just different things it was completely off the mark. They shouldn't have said anything remotely like that. Um, and I won't get into the details, but basically they were anti-Semitic, and there's a lot of things that went on with that. And I had an issue with that I brought to attention to the owners, and they just swept it under the rug. And I knew that was the resignation. That was it. I was done. I'm out. See ya. And that I couldn't believe that they stood for that. It completely floored me. And I mean, realistically though, I'm I was raised Catholic. I think that and it wasn't even a factor. I'm not Jewish. I look Jewish, but I'm not. But it really hurt my feelings as far as what was. I just couldn't. I was kind of just blindsided. I had no way, shape, or form felt that we weren't even talking about it. And the guy brought this up, and I was like, wow. So I get it. I understand. I think that there's a lot of people that are they're just really misguided. They're completely and it goes back to what you were saying earlier about what are they thinking? What's their mental block that they think that they can treat you like that? It just floors me. Anyway, okay, enough about that. But yeah, so there's some definite people that I think that we've come across in our lives that have, for whatever reason, you look at it from a standpoint of, okay, well, you said that, and nobody's going to do anything about it, so bite me. That's it. I'm moving on. Hashtag bite me. So, but there's so much that can be misconstrued when it comes to being assertive and being insulting. But I think that you've got kind of the basis of the idea of what I was trying to accomplish here. I think that we're all on the same page, right? We've all got this factor in our lives that we all have to contend with, whether it be a passing comment or a actual flat out statement of who these people think they are. I don't know. But and it goes without saying too that people are we're all human beings, and I really think it's up to us to do something either about it or not. There's only two ways it can go. Either you stay or you leave. That's the way I look at it. But I don't really have a set saying or anything of that, or some infinite wisdom of how to, change assertion and insulting matters or and magic. It just doesn't happen. The only thing I could suggest that we do is that we make sure that we, move on, be better than that. raise the bar and don't put up with it. I'm a firm believer that good things come, and I think that to those who wait, and I think that there's a lot of people that have an opportunity in life that they don't take to help somebody. And that always bothered me. That always got me to the point where I was like, God, I guess I'm gonna have to be that guy. What we got here? Hold on a second. Ah, office politics. That could be interesting. Office politics is that's an entire season for a show. I've had more people politically, or just not politically. Office politics can go all different ways. We've had, I've been in situations where we've always had a very friendly, what's the word I'm looking for? Very friendly receptionist, or very friendly female or male for that matter, that was always around. It was always, at the parties, and, on and on and on. No problem, right? They could say anything they wanted to you. You could say anything to them. And it's just the way it was. But then you've got other ones that are, I, you can't even look at them cross-eyed without them running to HR, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But you get to the point where you're like, God, how am I? You're on edge. You're completely on edge. What do you do? And it affects work. It affects work. The politics at work all the time, whether it's at the water cooler or the coffee maker or whatever. It makes for a very unsettled place of business, I think. But how do you guys handle all that? What's the norm? Do you end up having to get a hold of your attorney because of harassment suits, or what's the anybody? Bueller? Yeah, I've had other instances where there's been people that it's almost like they wanted a lawsuit, and either they wanted a boyfriend or a lawsuit, and it always bothered me that they acted that way. I never understood that. But, it is what it is. I don't have, like I said, I don't have any really, there's no book that's going to tell you how to do that. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you might want to check with your local UAW or one of those. But I think that there's a couple different ways that you can handle it. I've never liked politics, though, in the office. And that's one thing I love about working for myself, because pretty much I only have to deal with myself. But yeah, so there's so much, so much to learn from all this. I don't really know if I've been helpful or not today, but at least gives you an idea of what we all deal with. Man, there's so much. Well, that's good, Carla. Donna says she's kind of lucky she's never been sent to HR for harassment. Too flirtatious. Yeah, I've had a couple times to where I felt like I've said something maybe I shouldn't have, and I don't know if that's that's part for the course. I don't know. But you get to the point where it's like, well, nowadays nothing's said. There's no, nothing's said and nothing's done. Don't play that game at all. Carl, my revenge against the water company was leaving it. They didn't realize all that I did there until I stopped doing it. That's right. That straight up, Brian. We've had, there's companies don't know what they miss on a lot of people when they leave. And I'm sure that you're no slouch. I'm sure that you were really very vital there. Willow says, I try not to involve myself with my coworkers. I really have no interest in hanging out with them outside of work. I had a few coworkers that I had similar interests, but I'm usually the only nerd. Well, good. You know what? Way to respect it and way to own it, Willow. That's it. I'd rather be the land of misfit toys and be the wallflower if I need to be. There's, it is what it is. There's people that sometimes it's better that you don't go out with everybody at work. There's been situations where I know that I've had I've had to go and work away from, just like on the road and that. And I really just did not like hanging out with everybody. I mean, it got to the point where I was like, forget it. This is really lame. It's not productive. Half of the time, the whole crew is hung over the next day, and that's no good. And it's you just don't. I don't know. You just get to the point where it gets old real fast. And I'd rather just be the guy that, like you said, just one of the nerds. Give me a comic book. I'm going to read tonight. See ya. Brian taught a manager the same lesson. He told me I was just a secretary. So I spent a day doing just secretary. Very good, Donna. Very good. Yeah, that's, duties as apply always bothered me too. I signed a contract a while back and it said duties as apply, not duties, Christian. Duties, D-U-T-Y. You've got to have it to the point where you have you got to do basically everything they say, or you don't get paid because you're not doing what you're, insubordination or whatever, right? And I hated that too, because you get to the point where you don't know what to do. You don't know if you should do this or not do this, or, so yeah, that in itself is a pain in the butt too. Jeff Hayes, let me go back. It took me a long time to realize that I don't have to be friends with everyone at work, but I have responsibility to be friendly. Yeah. Yeah. And I think Jeff's right with that. There's a lot of people that, you can be, like I said, assertive and not insulting, but you can also be friendly to people without being friendly to people, if you know what I'm saying. I have a lot of respect for people that try to play the cards right, try to play the game properly. I've got a brother that's very very much into that. He played the corporate game for 35 years and did it well. And my heart goes out to him because the struggles that he had in corporate America, I don't know I could I don't think I could have dealt with it. Just trying to get through the like you were saying, the politics. Oh God, it was exhausting. But yeah, so I mean, there's so many different ways that this could go, guys. I know that we've got an opportunity learning from each other like this, and that's something to where I know that there's ways that the only way that we're going to learn it is by doing this, by talking about it, and getting to the point where people are like discussing and having some type of debate, or just listening, attentively listening, as far as what people are, how they've learned, how they've come across this, and how they've dealt with it. Brian and I are opening a mortuary that is also a PBS station. They handle the water distribution in the area. That's concerning, Christian. That's very concerning. We'll call it drowning in debt. It just, wow. Wow. Yeah, I think we should probably just end it on that note, because I think you guys are about there. You guys are awesome. I could go on all day with assertive avenues of what we can do and how we can maneuver this to a better situation, or how in the world can we restructure a corporation to make everybody valid. But when it comes down to it, I think that just living it and just experiencing it is going to be the best that we can. I don't really know if there's any real advice that I can give, but just go out and do it and get to the point where you guys are, better than the people around you. I don't know where Sarah is. I hope she's doing all right. I know that she's got, there's a lot going on there health wise. I hope she's doing okay. But yeah, so there's, we're just trying to get through it and trying to make sure that people are to the point where they're assertive and not insulting. I don't know what else to say about it. I know that I try it on a daily basis. It's hard. We get to the point where we're assertive, I still think I'm insulting, though. I don't think I can get around it. But I get to the point where I'm at least nice to people to the point of where I don't need to be nice to people anymore. So I appreciate everybody, stopping in and bringing what you did to the table. I think that there's so much that we can all learn from each other. You've got, you know, you've got this great community of people that are humble and they care, and I'm glad I'm a part of it. There's not really any great statement I can make at the end of this call, but no envy, no fear. And I appreciate you guys so much for putting up with me and dealing with the ums and uhs and everything else that I've had to do while I'm live here. But I do appreciate it. Christian, all the guys, you guys rock, and, we're family. So I hope that you guys see the goodness in my heart when it comes to this. And I hope that we can do this again real soon. So try to have a great day, guys. Get out there and do something awesome. Make sure that you're checking out Joe Dog here in about a half hour. He's going to be making some noise at lunch here, apparently, and I'm looking forward to watching it. So try to have a great day, guys, and I will talk to you all very, very soon. And we are going to end it with my intro. See you guys later.